Well, this was something, and you had a tweet about this, where talking about those forces that were trying to stop J.D. Vance, and something I think that, those of us that knew what was going on behind the scenes.
Are you talking about Lindsey Graham?
I am talking about
that little liar, creepy little finger sniffer.
That people don't quite realize what all was going on. So what was really behind that tweet?
I've never seen anything like it. It's just full court press by the worst people I've ever met, and all of whom I know personally. Not all, I don't know Ken Griffin, but I know the rest of them personally because I lived in DC my whole life. And what was so striking to me, they're always behind the scenes lobbying campaigns for every position. Every time power changes hands or, someone who wants a piece of it, got it. Same with money, fine. But I've just never seen a clearer cut alignment between like everybody with bad motives, everyone who wants more killing for its own sake, everyone who's driven by really, really unholy impulses. They were all on one side pushing Marco Rubio, who, for the record, I think is a perfectly nice person, and Doug Burgum, whom I don't know. But they were adamant that it could not be J.D. Vance. And I do think you can judge, in the same way you can judge a tree by the fruit it bears, you can judge people by their supporters or detractors. And like every bad person, the people responsible for every horrible disaster this country has had over the last 15 years, they were all against J.D. Vance. And really against J.D. Vance. Like last minute desperation, offers of all kinds of things, just the ugliest kind of manipulation, lying, corruption, true corruption. And up until 1 p.m. on Monday, this was going on. That's how high they thought the stakes were. It wasn't just like, well, I kind of prefer Marco to JD. No. And wow, I just thought that is the force that needs to be excised from the Republican Party. And they can join David Frum and Bill Kristol and all the rest of the world's worst people in the other party. Why do they have to hang around there? Like, you should have one semi-decent option in American politics. No?
Right. And
what are they doing here? Why are these people still here?
We can find another island of misfits somewhere, and they can go right next to the first one. And
no, but if you're into Stalinism, if you're into just like murdering people in faraway countries because it makes you feel like God, which is what guys like Frum and Kristol and John Bolton, that's what they're into. Of course, they're like impotent with tragic personal lives, but they feel powerful because they get to kill Ukrainians. We have a party for you. It's called the Democratic Party. Like, what are you doing here? Right?
Well, and this for the neocons in general, this is actually where they came from originally. And the reason they came out of the Democrat Party, and this is sort of the tier one, so like Irving and the rest, came over the Vietnam War.
Oh, yeah.
And so, wait, you guys are going anti-war. We can't have that. We need the war. We need the killing. We need the destruction. We need the... I'll just call it. It's demonic. It's demonic to want that level of death. I've been to China. I've been to Vietnam. I've been to Russia. I've been to many of the places affected, but Poland, obviously, that's been affected by the place where my family comes from. And it's horrific. It's an actual atrocity.
Well, of course, but the atrocity is the point. That's what you realize.
And then you realize the point of a system is what it does. And so for us, when we talk about the
point of a system is what it does.
Point of a system is what
I like that. I've never heard that.
Have you heard that? Yeah, that's sort of that's not mine. That's been going around. But if you think of it, if a system has a problem, well, then that problem would be fixed in maybe the next iteration or the next version of the system. You push out an update, not like CrowdStrike, but an actual fix. You would do something to fix your system. This is why the Constitution has amendments. They said, maybe we didn't quite get it right. We're going to allow you guys to amend this thing, and as you go, and work things out, maybe you need to. For example, one of the early fixes in that system was the presidency and the vice presidency. This idea that the second most vote getter would be this vice president led to an administration that was just too factious to work together. So fine, they came up with a new system where we now have sort of. I don't know. No, I don't think I said now, but I catch myself because I'm not sure that's exactly what we have now.
No, because they always hate each other. I've never seen a president and a vice president who didn't really hate each other.
Yeah. And now, well, hopefully the next one.
I hope that's true. There's something about the structure that makes it hard to get along.
Does. And the other idea then is that what if you leave that flaw? What if the flaw is there and it's kept in every iteration, every update of the system, every version of the operating system that gets pushed out always has this 0-day flaw that's still in it, or 0-day exploit that's what hackers talk about. And so you might start to realize that, wait a minute, what if that flaw that's creating this unwanted outcome actually is the real system? And everything that we've been told is just window dressing.
Exactly.
And so maybe the fact that communism kills 100 million people actually is the point of communism.
Of course.
And it's not equality, justice, diversity, DEI, peace, land, bread, as Lenin said, any of those things. What if the point actually is the killing?
And maybe if the victims are disproportionately Christian, which they have been always from French Revolution to present, maybe the actual point is opposing Christianity. Maybe a real enemy is Jesus. I'm just thinking. I mean, if the point of a system is what it does, and every so-called communist revolution from the Maoist Revolution to the French Revolution to the Spanish Civil War to the Bolshevik Revolution, they all targeted Christians. And
So-
maybe that's the real enemy for them.
The Christians are the ones that, so when we wrote on humans, we had done this like podcast series on Chronicles of the Revolution and China Files. And I was just sort of going through it from a history perspective. And it was Christmas break and I wanted some extra content up there. So let's just talk about communism. But then as we started going through each of them, we realized like a pattern just started emerging. And the pattern was always the Christians are the first to go. Whether it's under the gun, whether it's under the guillotine, whether it's under the knife, whatever it, or in front of the cannon, whatever it is, it's the Christians that are always lined up first, to the point where Robespierre, at the very end of the Terror, is executing nuns
By guillotine. I was about to say it wasn't.
The Sisters of Copenhagen
Exactly.
are led to in the streets of Paris.
I think you're the only person who knows that.
A
but that's
French
right.
monarchy. So a French monarchy or a Catholic monarchy in France is completely overturned. The Notre Dame, by the way, another symbol which seems to be constantly under attack for some strange reason that can't help but notice. By the way, Michelle Obama also standing right next to it when it catches fire, sipping her champagne. Back in 1798, it gets turned over it gets deconsecrated as a cathedral. So it's deconsecrated as a cathedral and is turned into a temple of reason.
Of course.
So a temple to a not God, a temple to a demon, a temple to another figure that is not God, that is not worshiping Christ. So, and they hold these cults. They actually called them cults back then, the cult of reason. And so there were cult ceremonies that were held in Notre Dame. Now, of course, it's been reconsecrated since then. And there was a guy by the name of Napoleon that actually played a huge role in this. The same way that that when churches were under attack in Spain in the 1930s, Franco plays a huge role in the restoration of the church. The same way that you see this in Russia following the end of the Soviet Union, the end of the Bolshevik rule, the churches start to get built again, start to get reconsecrated, et cetera, et cetera. You see this happening again and again.
Well, it's sort of interesting you mentioned that because, I'm 55, so I was here for it. The entire American left, to one extent or another, very few explicitly, but all of them, in effect, supported the Soviet Union. And they defended it, even sometimes while attacking it, but effectively they defended it for the entire length of its existence from, October 1917 to August 1991, they defended it. And then and they kind of were agnostic about Russia in the turmoil period. They were happy to loot it, which they did. But it was only when and they weren't against Putin. It was only when he started talking about Christianity that he became, the enemy, the overriding enemy.
You have Barack Obama in 2014 says Crimea isn't an existential issue for us. It's an existential issue for them. And he didn't give it his blessing, but in that sort of Barack Obama way, he was, right? Trayvon Martin could have been my son. So he doesn't come out and say it, but that's him putting out his comment. And in the Washingtonology that we have to do now, like the Kremlinology. So the Washingtonology is that, okay, when they put out a statement like that, so Obama's like the voice of God on their side. He isn't the one, but he's the voice. And so when he puts out a statement, that's, okay, we're not going to do this. We're not going to worry about this. That's between Russia and Ukraine. Who really cares? Not a big deal. We're going to go in.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.